Alrighty, so I'm going to break down this Skytech PC with the Ryzen 5 2600 and NVIDIA RTX 2060, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 500 SSD. So first things first, one of the cool things I noticed is it has an RGB PSU, so the power supply. Sorry, my cat just jumped on me. I'm just gonna move him before he claws the living bejeebus out of my crotch. You stay there. um, Next positive thing about this is it does come with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I don't know why I chose one stick. There's no way they're going to give you one stick of 16. If they did, that would be wicked. Because all you have to do is buy another one. You would have 32 gigabytes, the absolute max for this motherboard. This motherboard is an ASRock, so that is a little bit of a negative. Other negative is this PSU does have exposed wires. Doesn't look great. The way that the wires come down for the case isn't perfect. It does show quite a bit, but overall this case actually looks quite cool. It doesn't advertise or show that there is more fan slots down here. You could put a liquid cooler of 3 under there and it would be perfectly fine. I would like to see this have an aftermarket cooler for the CPU, especially if you plan to do overclocking, because it is just the 2600, which you can overclock pretty well. Yeah, above all, like, it's not a bad PC whatsoever. So it cost under $1,000. I think it's probably the best PC right now for $1,000. It will be able to run every single game you throw at it. It does say it comes with an Asus, which is actually a pretty good graphics card, which I threw it together in this cart. The one thing that you guys are going to have to just minus, because Amazon sold out. Amazon did have earlier today the Ryzen 5 2600 on for $120. So minus $40 from this, but we have to remember that this build doesn't have Windows 10 added, which will be about $10. The Wi-Fi, which is another $10, and then RGB fans, you would need at least 3, so that would probably be about another 30. So we can just say that this price down here is somewhat correct. I would probably add an extra $50 just to be safe. But anyways, I went with a couple little better options. Sorry, had to sneeze. It does have XPG, I can see it written right there, but this stick of RAM is overly expensive currently. It's not probably one that they sell to the average market, so there really isn't anything for it, so I just went with the cheapest XPG I possibly could, still the same speed for $67. The cheapest SSD 500 gigs like this was more money than the 500 gigabyte M2 SSD, so I threw that in. That is better. I did go with this graphics card because it is the cheapest. It is one fan, and by the looks of this one, it's definitely one fan as well. But actually, let's try to look for it. Just to see what that one rocking with. Because usually they don't give you what they advertise. It is kind of just a crapshoot of what you're going to get. But we know it's an Asus. I don't believe it's this one. No, it's definitely not. Too fancy on the side. There is a chance that that 2060 doesn't exist in there. It could just be a 1060 in there, or a 1660 just chilling in there, because it doesn't look like Asus has one that looks like that. The only one that I can possibly think of is this, but even that doesn't quite look the same. Huh. So, I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. Let's just throw back in the cheap 2060 that I had in there, because it's probably the closest we're going to find. 2060. And yeah, there's no other Asus. Like, I would rather choose the Asus Tough TUF over the standard Asus one fan. This one actually isn't bad at all. You can just tell by the overclock speeds of 1740. It is quite good. For the price, I would definitely go with this one. It's up to me. Let's just throw that in this cart, because we want to try to make this PC the best we possibly can. And let's just get a quick little look-see. They actually have a sweet sale if anyone's looking for a power supply, 600 watt. This one is a 500 watt, but this was the cheapest RGB one, and it's actually a really good deal. It actually looks quite cool. but this case, so let's just take a little quick look-see at it. So it looks like this might light up. Hopefully it does. Or that would be pretty scummy advertising. It definitely does. But yeah, this is it open. Now the problem with this case is you can only pull air up to the PSU straight up. You can't put it on the outside to let it suck in cool air. It's got to take warm air from inside the case and suck it up, since these two things are pretty much going to be fighting against each other. This pulling air out and this trying to suck the hot air in into the PSU. It's just not the greatest idea because hot air does rise. But it does have this huge lower level where you could toss 3 fans or liquid cooler even. And it would actually be beneficial for the liquid cooler to be pulling cool air from the bottom rather than pulling hot air out and then passing through with the cooler. But above all, like, it's not bad. I don't hate this computer. I would recommend it. You could definitely get by. Oh, I just realized that this is an A20M motherboard. Ooh, I don't like that. I didn't realize that last time. So I threw in this one that I thought it was, but let's just take a quick little look-see at that 320M, which it looks like it's this one. Batteries part way up. Batteries part way up. And checkered on the side. Checkered on the side. So yeah, that's it. Did it say that it was a max? I don't think it did. 320M, so just the mini. So it has to be this one. 54 bucks. Let's just see what parts are going to have an issue. Okay, so it's just saying that they might need a BIOS update for this processor. So they're definitely going to do that for you. But yeah, the problem with these, I don't believe you can overclock the CPU whatsoever. So you're pretty much stuck with whatever the speed is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not terrible. Yeah, does it say? Yeah, because I'm 99% sure they don't let any overclocking, but they do let you run RAM speeds up to 3200, which I know that XPG RAM you can overclock. It is 3000, but you can overclock it to 3200. That would pretty much be similar to an overclock to the CPU, just because higher RAM speed makes the Ryzen CPUs run so much better. So I wouldn't say it's the end of the world, but if you ever do plan to do any overclocking, it kind of sucks. The best thing you could possibly do is when you go to upgrade, pick an X CPU that's already pretty much overclocked for you. And that's pretty much all you can do. It does have a built-in Wi-Fi right there where the finger is, so that's pretty neat. And yeah. Don't let this little optical illusion make you think that the board is RGB. It's just reflecting off the fan. So above all, I wouldn't say it's bad. If someone's looking for a $1,000 computer, they just want to plug it in and just play, this is perfect. There's not too much cool stuff you can really do with this in terms of overclocking. You can upgrade it quite a bit. You could update the BIOS and probably run a 3rd gen pretty easily, but again, no overclocking, so don't expect to cross that bridge. 16 gigabytes of RAM is all you pretty much need for the next, I would say, probably about 3 to 4 years. That's pretty much like the golden spot. 8 gigabytes is all you need, and then 16 is great. I don't think any game really recommends anything over 16. And yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad. Like, it's got decent clearance on the ground, so it's not sucking up a bunch of gross air if you do add the fans, which probably would be my first upgrade I would do for this. Because it never hurts to have more fans pulling in cool air, since it only has those two right there. So if you had multiple fans pulling cool air in, it would help push the hot air up and maybe help the air actually stay cool by the time it gets to the PSU. So it has its flaws, but I would say generally it is half decent. I wish they would put in a better motherboard, and I wish it was the 2600X. if they weren't going to do that, because that would be fantastic, but above all, it's not too bad.